I'm Vasel. Welcome to Look Back, where I take a look at reviews that I did this week, 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years ago. And I tell you what I think about them now, if I think about them at all. So last year I reviewed the Fuzzies. This is kind of a weird one because this is literally Jenga with little fuzzy things. You stick them on the top. It's fine. I gave this a 6 because it's fine, but it also feels like the kind of game you could just make up yourself at a craft store. Really? Think you know me? Guess again. That's a terrible name for a game. This one also gets a 6 out of 10. It's a party game where you're trying to guess what other people would say out of a list of options. That's fine, but there's not enough cards in the set. Quest Kids Matching Adventure. This gets a 6 for kids. I really like Quest Kids, amazing game, but this is just basically an advanced form of memory match for kids. Sock Monsters, another game for kids, another 6 for kids. This is you're moving around a board trying to collect socks for different monsters. Silly fun. Rule the Realm. Now this one I liked more than I think most people do because it looks like a mass market game. It is a mass market game, but it's area control where you use cards, sort of a la Ticket to Ride, to put rubber bands on a board. I think the idea is fun. 7 out of 10. I should say also the execution's fun. The idea is fun too. Sheepy Time. This is a slightly convoluted game from AEG about moving these sheep around a board and taking special actions and things. There's some cool concepts here. It's a little bit more, I think, rules heavy than it needs to be, but I enjoyed it. 7 out of 10. Hadrian's Wall. The most complicated roll and write game I've ever played, but definitely a lot going on and very enjoyable. 8 out of 10. Daimyo, Rebirth of the Empire. This is in that group of games that looks like a Euro. I mean, it looks like a war game, but actually is a Euro at heart. Cool miniatures and things as you're placing them around the board. It's kind of set in a it is a dystopian future. You can see the cover just has that look to it with the helmet is made up of different parts. I found it to be enjoyable and it feels unique. 8 out of 10. Lawyer Up, the 2-player game where one person's a prosecutor, another person's a defender. It's more of a big tug of war, but it has a lot of theming in there and there's a lot of different kinds of cases you can come across. It's very interesting. 8 out of 10. And then Kemet, Blood and Sand. This is the 2nd edition reprint of Kemet. Fantastic game. Highly recommended. 10 out of 10. I like the first version. The first one's a 10 out of 10. So there's the new one's going to work for me too. 5 years ago, I reviewed Control. I really disliked this game about just playing cards and manipulating stuff slightly with those cards. I give it a 3 out of 10. Interestingly enough, the company, Keymaster, went on to make very popular games, Parks and Trails, etc., which I've enjoyed. I just didn't like their first outing. Those Who Were 8. This is a 4 out of 10 for me. This is about a pantheon of gods, and it feels like it's basically a micro game, but I didn't feel there was enough game in it. Mea Culpa. This is a game about selling ways for people to get out of purgatory. There's some interesting ideas here, but didn't really gel into a good game. 5 out of 10. Mess Machine. This is a kind of game where you're using different things to move. It's kind of like a big slide puzzle. This one has dropped for me a bit as time has gone by. So it was a 7, I'll say 6.5. I'd still play it, but it's not one I'd want to get out as much. Slide Blast. It's about water slides. That's great right there. It's one of those typical games about connecting tubes and making long, cool water slides. It's a great theme. I wish more companies would do things like that. 7 out of 10. Brilliance. This is a game about ants, sending out your ants. It has really cool little plastic ants. You send them out to go collect resources, build your little colony. I think Ants makes for a fun game. This would be in my top 10 Ants game. And yes, such a thing could be done. 7.5. And then Jump Drive. Jump Drive is a remaking of a game called City, which incidentally, City was re-released a few years ago. As it is, this is in the Race for the Galaxy universe. It's much simpler than Race for the Galaxy. It ramps up really fast, but it's solid. Really good game. 8 out of 10. 10 years ago, I reviewed a bunch of games that were 5.5s, but I just dropped them to 5 because whatever. Pyramus. This is a game about making a pyramid from the same folks who made Gemblo. But this one itself, I don't think, comes across as well. Fistful Penguins. This is from Watsopalag. It's about rolling dice and collecting penguins. Meh. And Super Showdown. It's kind of a superhero little card game. In today's superhero games, this would barely be a blip, but 10 years ago there wasn't nearly as many, and it still wasn't that great. But I did play some good games 10 years ago. Empires of the Void. Now this one you'll notice I'm dropping from an 8 to a 7, but that's just because Empires of the Void 2nd edition came out, and it is a huge reworking of the original game. It's not just mildly different. So I still like the original one, but I'll probably never play it again because the new one is so much better. Heron Tortoise. This is a 7.5, just a classic game, older than me, or same age as me. Anyway, this one is the first Spiel des Jahres winner. It's a racing game in which you go backwards to get enough carrots to go forwards. Very mathy. I like it. And then finally, Sato, an 8.5. And I'll tell you what, folks, I toy with giving this one a 9. It is one of the best abstract games out there. Just played it with my kids. My kids think it's fantastic, too. This is just a classic game where you move as far as you want to ahead, but whatever color you land on, that's the color of the piece your opponent moves. Great, great game. And those are the reviews that I did 1, 5, and 10 years ago. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been Look Back on the Dice Tower.